speaker is Lorraine Hunter. Lorraine knows firsthand the effect that dementia has on families, having experienced it with her mother. She will now share with us her daughter's perspective on dementia. Could you please make welcome Lorraine Hunter?
Hi, it's actually my dad, so I'll just tell you the story of my dad, which is a bit of a warts and all story, and my journey through his illness, the abyss, which was Alzheimer's. In 1945, my dad Jerry was born in Dundee in Scotland. A month later, his dad died of tuberculosis. Dad was one of 7 children, 2 sisters and 4 brothers. Life after the war was tough, and tougher still without a father. 20 years later, he was a father himself. I was his firstborn, and he would tell me often that when he saw me for the first time, I had one eye open and one eye shut. The bond, he said, was instant, like being hit by a lightning bolt. As a baby, unconsciously, I trusted him explicitly. Throughout my life, that never wavered. By the time he was 30, my parents had separated and Dad hit the bottle. Dad was devastated, but still he drank. He drank to forget, and he drank himself into oblivion. Until one day, on a building site, he returned from the pub at lunchtime and fell backwards down an open lift shaft. The fact that he was drunk probably saved his life. It was a wake-up call. He got himself sober and back on track. I was now in my early teens. He taught me to skate when I was little, and there was nothing better than to go skating to the ice rink on Saturdays and spend the afternoon together. It was always a laugh. We went every week and we did it for years. It remained a favourite thing to do, especially when his grandchildren came along years later. I left school and went to college, and to the amusement of my friends, my dad decided to enrol at the same time. They thought he was really cool and trendy, and I didn't really mind too much initially, until we all bumped into him one night at the local nightclub, and then I really gave him the right act. When I was 20, I married Paul and moved to New Zealand. Not to be outdone, Dad came out the next year. He loved it here, and lived out in the bush at the back of Titirangi. He thought it was paradise. He was offered work in Japan and decided that it was time for him to move on and see a bit more of the world. He worked in some amazing places, including the QE2, and these travel experiences stayed with him even when his memory started to betray him. For many years he lived in London and worked at the exhibition centre in Earls Court. He was a bit of a jack of the lad and had some business cards printed that gave his occupation as film, stage and set designer. He was actually a chippy, but that title didn't fit quite well with his swanky new surroundings. In his late 40s, he moved back to Scotland and re-established himself with his network of friends at Alcoholics Anonymous. He began to sponsor recovering alcoholics and would take calls day and night, trying to convince them to stay off the drink. He also mentored troubled youths with alcohol and drug addiction. At his funeral, I lost track of the number of guys who stopped to tell me that they wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for Dad. When he turned 60, Dad came back to New Zealand for a visit. He was meant to stay for a couple of months, but convinced himself that he needed to get back earlier. After 3 weeks, we reluctantly waved him off. He had a virus when he arrived, but he seemed to shake it off. However, when he got back to Scotland, my sister was shocked at how ill he looked, and in hindsight, it took him a long time to recover. Slowly over the next few years, his behaviour started to change. Food that he loved, he suddenly didn't like anymore. His car was permanently covered in dents, and he gave unusual presents as gifts. My sister got a large pair of men's leather driving gloves, and my nephew was given a lady's scarf for Christmas. Ours never arrived at all. Dad was always a bit wacky, and we thought he'd done it for a laugh. We didn't get the joke. By then he'd retired, and along with walking daily, he enrolled for lots of university history courses to keep his mind active. He loved it, but suddenly he lost interest and started visiting friends and family with the same gear on that he'd worn the day before. He'd always been an immaculate dresser, and this was the trigger that sent him to the doctor. I remember him telling me that the doctor said, "Ger, if you lose your keys and you find them again, that's perfectly normal. But if you find them and you don't know what to do with them, then you have a problem." Dad, he said, was perfectly normal, except he was still driving around Dundee like Mr. Bean. Near misses with articulated lorries seemed to be happening daily. He started to get depressed and was prescribed antidepressants. He started to lose weight rapidly, but swore that he was eating enormous quantities of food. He would parrot off a list of things he was eating daily. The list was exactly the same as the one he prattled off the day before. He started avoiding family dinners and other social gatherings. He had always been a lifeless soul. Back to the doctor, a hospital scan, the memory clinic, and finally, when he thought he was starting to go mad, came the phone call. It was Alzheimer's. He was 64 years old. And initially relieved, finally there was an explanation. Virtually overnight, all the trust that I placed in him, he's now placing me. Complete role reversal. I'm now going to play a little video where Dad tells the story in his own words. This was courtesy of a project initiated by the University of Dundee, and it was filmed about a year after he'd been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
I didn't want to come here. I'm still just taking it in with other people in the same boat as me. I watch how they treat their illness. The care and support, that's a big thing. Without this, I'd probably be sitting at home looking at the walls. Sometimes I get angry and ask why me. But I'm back at the art again, and it makes me sing. I was born in 1945, about a month before my father died of TB. Everyone else had a dad. Mine was gone. Strange thing. Everyone else was off playing football. They were happy to stay in Dundee. I always wanted art and the world. I wanted to do things, to see places, to be able to say that you can do it. At school, our art teacher asked us, "What's art to you?" I didn't have an answer. I quite liked this. I thought I was very good at it, but I could get better. Any time I had a pencil, I'd sit and draw. It wasn't so much that I was putting down, was what I was seeing. That's the truth. Whether it was good or bad, it made no difference. It's still like that. If you only get one, just one, that's the thing. My house is full of paintings, wee bits and pieces that I've picked up. It just makes me feel in the world. I was travelling the world, working as a carpenter. My girls were young and at school. The teacher had a map of the world with pins showing where I was. Rome. So long ago, art developed and at the same time they could throw people to the lions. People watching with a beer, like a football match. That's people just like you and me doing things like that. Japan. Having read the books, I always thought I'd love to go there. And then suddenly, I'm there for 3 years. With the fear, maybe I'm not good enough. Everything was a challenge, but in a good way. Again with art. When you're in places like that, how they work, how they react, it makes me feel you're alive. Off to New Zealand again, and then the Polynesian islands. Mud huts, Tahiti. There are 2 brushes sticking out at Goganjus. When I was a carpenter on the QE2, came off it in New York. They handed us £600. That was just to do what you wanted to do with it. Imagine that. It's almost as though things slotting in at that particular time. Inside the brain, saying, you see, you can do it. And not only that, you're getting better and paid for it. Sometimes it was great and sometimes it was difficult. And at the same time, you're alive and you're doing it. My girls have done the same as I have. And again, it's travel, to push, to see something, if that's what they want to do it. And I'll be going back to New Zealand shortly.
Dad never did come back to New Zealand. For the next 4 years, I went back and forward every 6 months from New Zealand to Scotland to look after him. I also ran him every morning before I went to work. Those calls got harder as the decline was rapid. There was lots that he could no longer do for himself, but thankfully, he always knew me and recognised my voice, and for that alone, I was always thankful. It's amazing that through a tough situation, when you think you're completely alone, people come into your life and prop you up. For Dad and I, these were the caring staff at Alzheimer's Scotland, our angels. They treated Dad with such care and respect and made him feel like he was still very much part of the world and that he mattered. They included him in art classes, dancing, theatre and walking groups, and this continued even when he moved into care. They loved him and they still took the time to visit and take him out. The time that we spent together was precious, and I took him out and about without any hesitation, even when he moved finally into the dementia unit. Nothing stopped us singing with the volume up full blast in the cab, or sitting watching the waves with a mouthful of ice cream. We called those times the Great Escape, the alternative to which was staying at the walls in the nursing home until a visitor arrived. Towards the end, he asked me often to help him. He didn't want to live like this anymore. He stopped eating and drinking. He tried to keep control of his own destiny. Thankfully, having an enduring power of attorney and a living will meant that we were able to give him that release. He was 68 years old. Before he died, I promised him that I would do something to make things better for people like him still living with the illness.
Help is on the way to keep dementia patients financially independent for longer. One of our major banks is introducing dementia-friendly branches with simplified in-store layouts and specially trained frontline staff. Max Banya has the details.
Doing the banking isn't so simple for the 50,000 New Zealanders with dementia.
I tend to get numbers jumbled up, getting my mind to work to ask the right questions and then taking in what the teller tells me.
Now, for the first time in New Zealand, support groups and big corporates are working to create so-called dementia-friendly banks.
Enabling people to be as financially independent as possible, to feel confident when they go to the bank and to feel that they're going to be able to be supported.
Lorraine Hunter recently lost her father to Alzheimer's. She's spearheading the project, which sees all Westpac's frontline staff trained on identifying and assisting customers with dementia.
It just gives them the tools and they know how to interact with them more effectively so that it's a much more calmer experience.
75-year-old Alan Keane was diagnosed 3 years ago. His input in the scheme has included making banks easier to navigate.
When I walk into a bank, if there's like a kaleidoscope of colours, that can be very confusing to my mind.
Like this branch, when you walk in, you're straight in and straight to the teller's area, so it's really clear.
It's estimated 2 in 3 Kiwis are affected by dementia in some way, making it crucial to raise awareness of the condition.
We, along with Westpac, would love to see it go throughout the banking industry, but also much wider. You know, eventually we'd love to see a dementia-friendly New Zealand.
That means Alan Keane could look forward to financial freedom and security for longer. Max Banya, One News.
A whale is stranded in...
Thank you.